Good evening. Welcome to our season finale webinar. Tonight we have a special format where you've got a small panel to discuss one of the most important current economic subjects out there, changing position, say, of the US dollar as reserve currency and as global currency as a result of the current political climate coming out of the United States.
We have two perspectives, political one and practical one. Ted is an outstanding economist. Austin is practical perspective. And Austin combined to me a very unique point of view because on the one hand it's an American point of view, and on the other hand it's Polish point of view. So we have not only a very successful manager, but the person who knows reality in the both sides of Atlantic Ocean. We have to start from the First War, because after the First War, the United States was a major exporter of food, and it started to develop as an industrial power because of the First War and the First War intervention in the European theater. And then the US started to develop more and had to answer the second challenge, that was the Second World War. Again, the war that was stopped by Americans, both on the European theater and in the Pacific theater. All economists will acknowledge that the Second World War was a game changer as far as the position of the American economy, America as a superpower, and America as a creditor to the world. So if there were no European wars, Second World War was fought in the Pacific Ocean as well, but the two wars created America as we know now. After the Second World War, there was a lack of convertible currencies, and then Bretton Woods, the winning part of the Allied forces, the Allied countries decided that dollar is to be a key currency, and the world needs stable exchange rates. So Bretton Woods was an international agreement creating the US dollar as the key, and all other currencies were fixed and at the established parity to the dollar. It lasted, it was a time of a splendid stability. And this is a time where guys who voted for Trump are dreaming about, because that was the golden age for the US. After the Second World War, the States was not only a dominant owner of the global currency, the US, although reviving its position on the multilateral level of concept, the US was a designer of globalization. When you look back at the history of trade, it was the states that pushed all countries to reduce tariffs. Reduction of tariffs, several rounds of the reduction of tariffs, led the global economy to thrive, and trade started to grow very fast, faster than economic development measured by the GDP. Now, one more comment. In 1985, China entered the scene. They started to reform China, and it it were not China, everything would be much more friendly to us because China was an outsider, outlier, but smart enough to join the global economy and to take advantages of its comparative advantages, which is huge manpower that was able to work at the tenth, 1/10 as far as labor costs are concerned of the American or European the countries. And then step by step, the US started to develop its structural trade deficit. What does it mean? The major creditor of the global economy started to be a major debtor. American global market is in a very interesting place now. We witness some unprecedented situation, and I think that we will say about the current situation historical, because nowadays almost everyone expects that interest rates in US go down. While in the same time, most economical observers think that inflation rates will go up in the short and medium term. So we have a very unusual situation when bond yields go up when they should go down. And in the last 2 or 3 days, we have very, very impressive run up in the long end of the yield curve. And this run up goes to very interesting conclusions. First of all, we start to understand that maybe a situation when, as Pat mentioned before, the dollar is the king of the global currency market, maybe it's not longer true. On the other hand, there is a situation when US maybe is not in a good position to import capital to finance their trade deficit. So maybe the one obvious information is that we are in a situation that Trump administration could have opposite outcome they want to have. So situation is really, really interesting. And I think there's a $1 million question, what markets will go. But the name of the game nowadays is uncertainty. The volatility in financial market is huge. And I think that all we connected more or less with our companies, our firms, want to know what's going on. And in my opinion, the uncertainty in the financial markets will be transferred to real economy. And it is the most dangerous moment in our lives. The problem is that when we look at the consecutive trade deficits, the decreasing share of manufacturing, in particular, the decreasing share of manufacturing in the American US GDP, it is not unique. Generally, the trend of the diminishing share of manufacturing is understandable. I will give you just 2 reasons. The first is technological progress with the same unit of time, with the use of new technologies, new machines. You need much less people to operate the whole production of goods. So the share of employment in manufacturing has decreased sizably, not only in the United States. Of course, you can see it in the Rust Belt, you can see it in Pennsylvania, in many areas, but this is an objective. This is not a mistake, I would say. Or those who design globalization should predict that if you push the whole world in the area of free flow of capital, capital became the most liquid, the most movable factor in production. Yes, I did some research. You would not guess that the tax revenue to GDP in the US is about 89 percentage point lower than in Europe. So if you spend a lot, if you have the highest military spending, and you don't touch taxes, or even worse, you are reducing taxes for the most rich. And of course, this is invitation for a budget deficit. And if you have a budget deficit, this is something that you are constantly injecting purchasing power to the economy. Of course, the economy is going up, it's running at the full, but still, this economy, which is having a pretty decent growth rate, it still has 6.9% of a budget deficit. So instead of attacking loyal allies, Europe, Japan, South Korea, the States, I'm sorry, I don't, wait, this is very unpopular, but the States will have to increase taxes if they want to be a viable leader. But the major problem is how to convince the legislators that, sorry, but you have to increase taxes. Public spending is like a doping. If you start doping an athlete, and if it is considered as okay, then this doping has to continue, because if you cut it, the athlete will collapse. So the only way to get out of this imbalance, not only trade imbalance, but fiscal imbalance, you have to increase revenue. And if you don't want to kill entrepreneurs, I'm afraid consumption has to be taxed. Like in Europe, we pay 70% of the price of gas at the gas station on taxes. Americans, we don't believe that we are able to pay it, but we pay. This is a nice way also to discourage people to use private cars, and you can have a greener energy. So this kind of, as you remember from our meetings, I am a member of minority who likes to pay taxes, because I understand that if you have public spendings, if you care about weaker people, then you have to provide, you have to build a safety net, and you have to finance it. So I would not win any election. But I'm sincere. I'm not,
If the euro were to become more of a dominant global currency, how would that affect countries like Poland that are not in the eurozone but potentially would be in that point?
I haven't changed my mind since ages, and we have when it's impossible to replace our currency with euro. This is in the deepest economic and political interests of this country. And you are so young, so you should consider sharing this message to your business partners.
I I always agree with Tadeusz because I know how wise he is. I would only add, I think, with the times we're in now, which in some ways have been forced on us by US politics, and I say us meaning all of us in the world, it's a time of big ideas and forced reconsideration of a lot of the norms that we've grown used to in the post-war period. Again, even American politicians, whether from the Democratic Republican Party, would almost automatically sign up some of these norms, amongst them the strong dollar. Well, Donald Trump's personality is such that he doesn't care about what's been the established way of doing things. Doesn't matter. We're going to try this. So if you want to see an upside in politics, I would argue that is a potential upside. But it's probably time to reassess a lot of the way that international economics and other things have worked, security arrangements, so forth. But it's important not to just be responsive to what's coming out of the States, but be proactive and also not be afraid to grasp and put into action some big ideas.
We have two questions from the audience here. First one, could the trade war initiated by the Trump administration accelerate de-dollarization of national debt?
I think that it's now possible. It's not quite easy. As Ted mentioned before, there is very huge amount of savings, and European market is too small. Japanese market is too small, and we have no good places to go. So, in my opinion, the current situation is temporary. We will witness some global uncertainty, but the dollar is safe in the very long run. The short term, the medium term, I don't know. If I know, I will be a very rich man. But in the long run, I'm almost sure that the dollar will be in the rich trend.
As the practical guy in the conversation, I guess in the business where I am, we trade with China. We went through international trade, and I also don't see the dollar losing its role as the international currency from any side. Even a seller in China would rather receive dollars than receive RMB, and that's not changing. I don't expect that to change either. So I agree with what Mariusz said. I don't know if I agree about the long term. I still take the view that this is a process that will just continue. And that we head into a global environment where it's going to be a diversity of currencies that become more and more important, are used, whether it's for international trade or reserve currencies. I think the dollar will continue that process, not quickly, but from my understanding of the era we're entering, that's the way.
Could the unpredictability of tariff policies, that's US dollar status has the world concerned about?
Tug of war or trade war that was launched from the US, I think it sent shockwaves to not only to the current kind of thinking about what is going on, but I believe that country leaders, politicians will recognize it as a major signal. I'm talking about Europe in particular. You cannot get a stronger signal about your maturity. The EU, the post-war Europe is a child of the American long-term view. Because the Americans, they set out rules of our integration, European integration. We were dependent, we chose to be dependent on the US. We Europeans are strong enough, educated enough to start our independent thinking. Please remember, we have about 500 million of population, very well educated, although some elections would question it, but still, 500 million of consumers. So from the international economics point of view, 500 million of people is enough to get economies of scale. We have a great power as far as energy is concerned, Canada. Since Canadians are hated now, why don't we swap our LNG imports? And why don't we buy Canadian LNG? And this kind of thinking will have to be remembered or considered by leaders, democratically elected leaders of Europe, in France, in Germany, in the Netherlands, in Central Europe. It's high time to acknowledge that we are mature part of Europe, of the world, probably the best part of the world today. Not all Europeans would say so, but you travel a lot. And you know that the quality of life we have here is extremely high. And we should be proud and we should prove that having strong foundation and being proud of what Europe achieved after 1925, we deserve to be a political power as well, not only a sum of independent countries with strong economies, but Europe has to be a political power.
I think that was an excellent summary, though. The opportunity that current times offers to Europe and the Eurozone. The question is, will it be taken hold of and utilized? The opportunity exists, and not something that'll happen in 6 months or a year. But the big idea is to start taking that path and embracing it, or accepting being sidelined for the long term.
To add to what Austin said, my view is another perspective, private perspective, because we started with the conclusion that the volatility and uncertainty are the two names of the game. So we can assume that running the company before Trump's era was pretty easy. Boring, yes, boring. And nowadays, we should be very clever, very smart, and maybe what needs some big people like here to deal with some situation with us nowadays. Maybe it's an opportunity.
So thank you everybody for participating and being a part of this event. Thank you both for being a part of this. We hope that you enjoyed it. That is our season finale of the Hold On Atlanta MBA Alumni Association webinar series. And we will then be back starting again in the fall with our next programming. But have a good summer and thank you very much.